Hello everyone and welcome back to Antique and Garden Showcase. Today is going to be a little bit different because we are in the middle of that heat wave that's going on all across the United States apparently right now, or at least most of it. And yesterday the heat index was 107 degrees. Today even higher than that, and I'm out running around going to my stores for merchandising this morning. But I thought I would do a little bit of a Q&A today. I've had a lot of questions asked, and some of these are really good questions that a lot of people may want to know things about. So as the day goes on, I'm going to do a question here and there. I might be in different locations. Right now I'm in the car, so just trying to stay cool. That's the main thing. You all stay safe while you're out and about these next few days this week, and let's start the Q&A. So one of the first questions I had that I thought was really interesting just this past week was about the burning bushes that are at the end of our driveway. And those were actually planted in 1988. They were planted to help hold that hillside back, to keep it from sliding. We're hoping the root system would work. They were just little 12-inch starts that came from a mail order catalog, and I think there are 20 of them down through there. So they are 34 years old. Sometime in the late 90s, early 2000s, they were probably twice as tall as they are now. They kind of got out of hand. And I noticed that a landscaping company, I used to teach, I was a music teacher for 11 years, and I used to teach at a private school, and they had a similar hedge there. And the landscaping people went in and took a chainsaw one day and took it down by half. And I thought, I wonder how that's going to work. So I watched, and it grew back really well. It actually filled out really well. I thought, I'm going to do that at home. I'm going to fix those and make them look a little better so I can actually see over top of them and maintain them easier. And after cutting them back hard that one time, they've worked really well. It takes one trimming each year in the spring to kind of shape those back up and keep them in that long box formation. And in the fall, that particular variety, and I'm not sure what kind of variety it was, most of the burning bushes are very red in color. This one does turn red, but it also turns a really pretty purple plum almost in there too. So yes, definitely, if they work in your area. Some areas that particular shrub is invasive, so be sure to check. It does sometimes seed. I find them springing up around the yard. They pull up really easy. In our area, they're not horribly invasive, so I do use them similarly to like a boxwood hedge. They work really well. The next question I had was, what gardening zone are you in? I am located in gardening zone 6B, which is in central Kentucky, very near Lexington, Kentucky, which is the second largest city in Kentucky. And our 6B is a little bit different. It's very humid, very warm in the summertime. In fact, today's heat index is 109, and with humidity that just feels like a blanket being thrown over top of you, a wet blanket at that, when you walk outside the door. So it's really miserable on some days like this, but on the nicer, cooler days, it's a very, very pleasant climate to live in. But today, 109 heat index. You can see it on the screen up here. Yeah, that's what we're dealing with. Someone asked the other day if the caladiums that I save over winter come back more or less, bigger or smaller than the year before. And I found that a little difficult to answer. Yes, they multiply as far as the bulbs. I do get more bulbs each year. The plants themselves, the majority of them come back the same size as they were the year before. Now, I have found that a couple of varieties actually have been on the small side, especially the Monrovian Tiki Torch. It did not come back the same size that it was last year. And also, I'm sitting right across from White Wonder here. It's a little smaller than it was last year as well. I'm not quite sure what factors play into that, but the majority of them, the Tickle Me Pinks, the Heart's Flame that's out here, it's like one that just will not stop no matter what you do. It's a beautiful, almost like a small red elephant ear. It's probably my favorite of all, and it does really, really well. I picked up another one, which was Red Ruffles, the other day by Monrovia, and I'm hoping it does really well too, because I'd like to use it in a couple of these outside urns, maybe as a complement to Heart's Flame out there. So for the most of those, you know, just saving them over the winter doesn't do anything to them. They come back pretty much the same as they were. On occasion, like I said, I found just a couple that are smaller. One comment I had was that our terrain is very interesting, lots of hills and lots of terracing, and that's just very much Kentucky. That's all I can say. It's just finding a flat spot around here is is a commodity. There are some places that have, you know, more smoother, more level land, but in our area here, it is really hilly terrain. It's not really steep, but it adds a lot of interest. In fact, if we were to go over the hill to the back of the property and look over the fence into the neighboring farmland, you would actually see a small cave down there and the start of a small waterway down there that's called Finney Fork. And that turns into a pretty good sized creek as it goes on down into another tributary to the Kentucky River. So Kentucky has about, I think I read 50,000 miles of unnavigable waterways. So all that really contributes to our heat. Well, not really the heat, but the humidity around here, because there's always moisture around everywhere, always runoff, natural springs, cave systems. So if you're familiar with our state, you know that the vast majority of it is on a cave system too, and Mammoth Cave being one of the largest cave systems in the world is in the state. So it is a very interesting terrain, and it does make for interesting gardening too. Another question I had was, where do I find the insert pots to go in the urns whenever I buy them? And that is pretty much just a search thing, and I'm going to turn this camera around and show you what I do as far as measurements to find those insert pots. When I first get an urn, the thing that I measure first is the diameter across from the widest part to the widest part. This one, I believe the urn itself is probably a 12, but I think the biggest pot I could find was a 10, which gave it, you know, about an inch of play all the way around there. And then I measure the depth from the top of the urn down, and I'm not sure how much this one was. It was probably 8 or 10 as well. And I try to find a pot that's shaped, maybe, I think this one takes on a conical shape. So I find one that's 10 inches at the top that would fit. I also look down inside too to see if the diameter gets smaller in here. That way I know to taper these down into it. And then I just go out to stores looking for them. I found them at places like maybe like Walmart and Lowe's, and the ones in here came from the Ollie's Bargain outlet that we have here in town. They get a lot of pots. That's the same place that I buy the ceramic pots that I get for the around the wall and stuff over there. Those come from there as well. So it's just kind of a search and hunt to try to find the right size. And even if we go over to this pot over here, it's even different from those. This is the Kramer urn, and the Kramer urn is very shallow but bigger in diameter. So the diameter is wider, but the depth is a lot less. And I found out, you can see right there, I'm not even using a liner in there. I'm using a liner, but I'm using a hanging pot. It's a, well, burlap. A burlap 14-inch hanging pot liner in there to have this in, and it works really well for that application. And I can pop it in and out just as easy. Another comment I got the other day was that people were saying you're not hesitant on telling about what's working and what's not working in the yard. And I will say that I'm not sponsored by anybody right now. This is solely a one-person adventure. I do all my own filming, I do everything else, all my editing, everything's done by me. And 90% of the time, well, more than 90% of the time, I am not on script. I actually wrote down the questions for this today so I could remember what they were. But I was a teacher for 11 years, and one thing that I know to do is to be able to talk to the group, be able to do what I need to do, and, you know, relay the information the way that I want to relay it. And I don't need a script to do that. That's just not necessary. And I appreciate that comment, because they're like, well, it feels very real, like you're telling us what worked for you, what didn't work. And that's the way I want this channel to be. I want it to be very real. And while I may at some point be sponsored by someone, you know, that time is not now. And I'm going to be very careful about that as I move forward in the future with this channel. And one thing that I am looking at doing is actually something that I'm doing myself, is putting together an Amazon market store. And it'll just be things that I use that I've found that work well for me, that a place where you can go and look for those things yourself. The Amazon store is not up and running just yet. I'm working on it. As soon as I get that put together though, I will let you know. That way you can go there and kind of visit and see some of the things that I've used, found that I really like. And it will benefit the channel if you say, hey, I want to buy those particular thing. If you go through that link, it will actually help me out and boost this to where I can do even more, which is what I'm hoping to do. The last question I had on the list was, where can I find the breadseed poppies? And the breadseed poppies were such a nice surprise in your kitchen garden. Well, I looked online and there are a couple of places. Floret Flower Farm. If you just Google it, or I'll try to find the link and put it down, they have some really pretty ones, some different colors than even what I have out there. And also Eden Brothers, I noticed they had some really nice ones as well. When you do a Google search for breadseed poppies, you will find several different things out there, and a color that you might like even better than the ones that I have. I know there's a purple that I really want to add to the collection back here as well, that I've seen that I think will look really good along with the pink and red. But breadseed poppies, you need to plant those in the fall, and they do need to have a cold period for those seeds to kind of activate throughout the winter. And then in the spring, you'll see them coming up everywhere. So they do act as a nice, kind of like a feed for doves around here. We have a really large population of mourning doves, and I'll see them in there. Once the poppies drop seeds, they'll be picking the seeds along the ground in the garden, and it just kind of brings a little bit of wildlife in there. And there's plenty of seeds left over for germination in the spring, even with the doves around, which is kind of nice. So hope you can find some. If you're looking for those, just go to those places. I'll try to put those links at the bottom. As always, thank you for watching Antique and Garden Showcase. Glad to have you here. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would certainly appreciate having you here. Hit the bell. You'll get notifications when we come on with new videos, typically Wednesday and Saturday of every week at 7 Eastern time. And leave comments, leave questions. I'll hope to do another Q&A soon. Thanks again. Have a great week, and I'll see you on Saturday. Bye.